Well, hello. For today's video, I'm going to talk to you about a traditional New Year's Eve in Lanzarote. And it's a bit different to what you might be used to. New Year's Eve here is all about uvas, cotillon, fuegos artificiales, and cava. But before I tell you about it, I'm going to tell you a little story about our first New Year's in Lanzarote. And this was at the turn of the century. Our kids were small and relatively young. We were living in Arrecife, and we booked a restaurant on the ocean front thinking it would be a wonderful place to enjoy New Year's Eve. And we were a bit surprised walking through town from our apartment to the restaurant to see that it was pretty much deserted. There was nobody out and about, and we really didn't understand that. And I'll explain in the video why that happens on New Year's Eve. But anyway, we got to the restaurant. There were two other tables there, both of them occupied by German families, 3 staff on, and not a soul around. Just before midnight, the staff in the restaurant handed each of the 3 tables a little bag, a cotillon, which had streamers and whistles that we could blow and various other little gadgets and toys and things like that. And then they turned the sound system up to maximum so that we could hear the bells being chimed from Madrid. And that in itself is a problem. I'll talk about that in a little bit because we have a time difference. But the bells being chimed from Madrid, and then we all stood up, celebrated, shook hands, kissed each other, and wondered why it was still so quiet. And it was at that point, after we'd eaten our grapes and we'd celebrated the 3 little tables in this restaurant together, it was at that point that all hell broke loose, because everybody came out of their houses all around us, their houses and apartments, burst onto the streets. They were beautifully dressed, a lot of the men in tuxedos, the women in cocktail dresses. The men who weren't in tuxedos were in suits, and everyone just started partying, and the party that night went on until dawn, and we ended up paddling in the ocean on Playa del Reducto at 7 o'clock in the morning as the sun was coming up. So let's explain why that happened and what a traditional New Year is like in Lanzarote. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is the uvas, which the uva is the Spanish word for grape. And the big tradition here is that when the chimes are rung out from Madrid, you have to eat 1 grape for each of the 12 bongs. So everybody has a little cup with 12 grapes in them, and each time there's a bong, you eat a grape, and that brings you good luck for the following year. Now, I mentioned before that we have a bit of an issue here in the Canary Islands because we have a time difference with Madrid. Madrid are an hour ahead of us. So they actually celebrate, when they celebrate their midnight, it's actually 11 p.m. here. So they actually ring the bells again an hour later for the Canary Islands because of that time difference. So I've also mentioned cotillon. What is cotillon? Well, it is the traditional New Year's bag, and it may contain the grapes, but as I said before, it will contain a streamer that you blow, something to make some noise. There'll probably be toys for the kids in them. There'll be streamers you can throw, and all kinds of little bits and pieces. And you'll find them in bags of cotillon all over the island in the lead up to New Year's, so you can just pick up however many you need for your family. Now, fuegos artificiales, that's fireworks. And fireworks are a really, really big thing in Spain, and they certainly are on New Year's Eve. What you will find is that there's a very big display in Arrecife, usually just offshore. There will be another one just off the coast of Playa Blanca. Lots of the hotels will do their own. So wherever you are on the coast of Lanzarote, you can look in both directions and you'll see fireworks going off just after midnight. But for me, the biggest and best display is the one that takes place in Teguise. Not Costa Teguise, but La Villa de Teguise, where the market takes place on a Sunday. And there's always a big firework display that goes off from the castle on the top of the hill there. And then the party that follows that in the Plaza de Leones, is absolutely fantastic. And of course, the other thing to mention is that the way to say Happy New Year to people here is Feliz Año Nuevo. But make sure you put the ny sound in the word año, otherwise it means something quite rude. So don't say Feliz Año Nuevo, say Feliz Año Nuevo. Just to talk about a couple of the other tradition of New Year's here. One is to wear red underwear, and it's quite traditional to give someone an item of red underwear to wear on New Year's Eve as a way of wishing them good luck for the coming year. And I mentioned the chimes, which ring out all across Spain. They traditionally always come from the clock at the Casa de Correos in Plaza Mayor in Madrid. If you've ever been to Madrid, Plaza Mayor is just the most stunning place where all kinds of state events take place over the year. And finally, as I mentioned at the top with our little story, New Year's Eve starts late here. So traditionally, all families have a family dinner, and it will be a posh dinner, properly dressed, perhaps 3, 4 or 5 courses. And at midnight, it'll be time to finish, for the meal itself to finish at midnight, so everyone can eat their grapes, and that's the point at which everyone goes out onto the streets. There will be, certainly in Arrecife, batucada bands. There'll be live musicians walking on the streets, and you can follow along with them. And the party, as I said before, goes on until dawn. And what you'll find at dawn is that all the little bakeries and cafeterias in Arrecife open their doors and they start cooking churros and chocolate. So you can dip your churros in hot chocolate while you're paddling in the ocean on the first day of the new year. So I hope you found that interesting. I love telling these stories about Lanzarote, and I've mentioned before that I've got a huge list that I'm going to tell over the next few years. So if it's the kind of thing you enjoy finding out about, please subscribe to our channel and you'll see them as I do them each week. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like, and thank you so much for spending some of your time watching me. Bye for now.